Ralf Schumacher has revealed that Aston Martin is preparing to replace Lance Stroll and their number one target is Oscar Piastri. Despite leading Lando Norris earlier this season, Piastri has fallen behind by just 1 point, amid growing suspicions of internal favoritism at McLaren. With only 4 races left, McLaren's golden talent may be looking elsewhere and Aston Martin is building a factory team around Honda and Adrian Newey that Piastri could lead. If this deal happens, it won't just change Piastri's future, it could flip the entire balance of power in Formula One. Before I tell you all the information, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and we'll continue with the news. Oscar Piastri is calm, precise, and devastatingly efficient behind the wheel. But calm doesn't mean unaware. And now, with 4 races left in the season, he's watching the narrative inside McLaren quietly shift around him. What began as a breakout year 1 where he outqualified Norris across several rounds and led him in points has flipped. And not through pace. Through patterns. Strategy calls, car setups, team dynamics. The result? Norris leads by just 1 point. But the message between the lines feels louder than the standings. Ralf Schumacher, never one to speak lightly, just made things official. Aston Martin is preparing to sign Oscar Piastri. Their intent? Replace Lance Stroll. Their reason? Build a team not around a surname but around pure performance. For months, Aston Martin has been positioning themselves for the future. Honda engines from 2026, Adrian Newey guiding the technical vision, and a seat opening next to Fernando Alonso or whoever follows. In that plan, Piastri isn't just a good fit. He's the ideal foundation. This rumor doesn't exist in isolation. It's fueled by tension inside McLaren. Piastri has delivered consistency, pace, and maturity far beyond his years. Yet post-summer break, several weekends have raised eyebrows. Why was he put on alternative strategies when leading early stints? Why the late pit stops when track position was critical? Why the sudden tone shift in media briefings when he started asking questions? These are not conspiracy theories. They are patterns. And top drivers see patterns before the rest of us do. Despite that, Piastri hasn't lost his edge. He remains surgical in qualifying, deadly in wheel-to-wheel combat, unshaken in high-pressure races. His talent speaks without headlines. That's precisely why teams like Aston Martin value him. No politics, no drama, just performance. And while McLaren celebrates Norris publicly, the paddock quietly agrees Oscar Piastri is the most complete young driver since Verstappen. Teams don't wait for those to become available. They create the opening. Oscar Piastri began 2025 exactly where a second-year future champion should: confident, aggressive, and quick. He outqualified Lando Norris multiple times in the early races and was consistently faster in the opening stints of Grands Prix. His pace wasn't just solid, it was clean, clinical, and natural. He wasn't forcing moves or overdriving. He was simply letting the stopwatch do the talking. And for a time, it looked like McLaren was becoming his team. But something changed after the summer break. The upgrades, designed to suit high-rake tracks and medium-speed turns, started aligning more with Norris's driving style. Setups shifted. Balance changed. On paper, both cars were equal, but on track, small differences began to appear. Piastri would often find himself on alternate strategies. Earlier pit stops, harder tires, shorter undercuts. It looked subtle. But in a sport of milliseconds, subtlety decides races. To the outside world, it was just normal variance. But to a driver fighting for parity inside a team, patterns become signals. Piastri started questioning calls more directly over team radio. Post-session, his tone changed. He was still respectful, still composed, but no longer deferential. Because no matter how young he may be, Oscar Piastri is no longer a rookie. He knows when a team is shifting its weight behind a different name. And right now, that name is Norris. The biggest problem isn't the pace delta, it's the perception. Norris is the face of the McLaren brand. The fan favorite. The marketing draw. And that influence can slowly affect decisions that shape outcomes. Who gets the preferred tire strategy? Who pits first? Who gets development focus? None of these things are written in a manual. They evolve quietly. And for a driver like Piastri, calm, focused, ego-free, it becomes a silent uphill battle to reclaim equal footing. Yet he hasn't cracked. His qualifying consistency remains sharp. His racecraft, especially in wheel-to-wheel scenarios, is among the best in the field. He's precise where others flinch, patient where others panic. He's handled the internal pressure like a veteran. But pressure, when left unchecked, creates space. And that space is where Aston Martin is now moving. Because they don't see a number 2 driver struggling for air. They see a future number 1 preparing to fly. And that's the core of the problem. McLaren may not realize that their internal tilt is sending a message, one that top-level drivers like Piastri hear loud and clear. When effort isn't matched by opportunity, loyalty becomes leverage. And right now, Aston Martin is offering something McLaren seems to be withholding, not just a seat, but a structure built around Oscar Piastri's growth. From the outside, McLaren's car development this year looked balanced. Both Piastri and Norris had access to upgrades, and on the surface, the equipment was equal. But in Formula One, equality is not always equity. Every car evolves around feedback, and as McLaren searched for that last tenth of performance, the design choices began drifting toward Norris's preferences. Front-end pointiness, sharper rotation, heavier rear loads under braking ideal for Norris's style. Less so for Piastri. Yet instead of complaining, Oscar adapted. He reprogrammed his corner entry speeds to protect tire balance. He changed steering inputs mid-corner to avoid snap oversteer in dirty air. His telemetry showed a driver absorbing the car's limitations, not fighting them. That level of technical flexibility is rare, especially in just a second full season. Most young drivers struggle to match a team's evolution when it leans away from them. Piastri didn't. He recalibrated and kept delivering. The problem wasn't pace. It was trust. Certain races exposed the strategic imbalance. In Hungary, he was left out too long in traffic. In Monza, he was sacrificed to protect Norris's undercut. In Singapore, he qualified well but was placed on a defensive compound strategy. Every driver has off weekends. But when those weekends stack up and only happen to one car, questions follow. Piastri didn't need a conspiracy. He just needed fairness. And by late season, it was no longer clear if he had it. This is exactly what makes him so attractive to a team like Aston Martin. They've watched him not just drive well but handle imbalance with intelligence and emotional control. They don't see a driver frustrated by internal politics. They see one learning how to operate inside them. For a team transitioning into a works project with Honda and Newey, that's gold. They don't just want raw speed. They want strategic thinkers behind the wheel. And Piastri is already functioning at that level. Technically, he's shown he can extract performance from cars not built around him. That's a vital trait for the next generation of regulations. When parts change quickly and setups are experimental, the best drivers are the ones who adapt the fastest, not just physically, but mentally. Piastri's smooth input style, low degradation footprint, and ability to protect tires across varying tracks mark him as a future tire whisperer. That's not opinion. It's data. And Aston Martin is reading it very closely. So while McLaren refines their car for one driver, Aston Martin is quietly preparing a team for another. They see what Oscar Piastri is becoming, not just what he's currently producing. And in a grid full of specialists, they see a future generalist. Someone who can lead development, score points under pressure, and carry a manufacturer's badge across multiple eras of change. That's not hype. That's value. And Aston Martin is ready to act on it. Oscar Piastri has done everything a team could ask for. He's been fast without crashing, sharp without ego, patient without becoming passive. But Formula One is not built on merit alone. It runs on momentum, and right now, the internal momentum at McLaren is tilting away from him. When a driver delivers top-tier performances but begins to feel like a supporting act, something shifts. Not in the press, not in the strategy meetings, but deep inside the place where loyalty starts to turn into calculation. That's the danger McLaren may not fully understand. Piastri isn't angry. He's not pushing back publicly. But behind the scenes, every race that slips through his fingers becomes a data point. Not about performance, about positioning. And when a driver as composed as Piastri starts calculating his place, it's not reactionary. It's surgical. Because he knows his value better than anyone else, and he knows there are teams now willing to build around it. Aston Martin's interest changes everything. This isn't about escaping Norris. It's about escaping the ceiling. Piastri didn't come to Formula One to be a number two. He came to build something. To win. To lead. And if McLaren cannot or will not give him that platform, someone else will. Aston Martin isn't offering him a job. They're offering him responsibility, influence, and time. The kind of long-term vision that turns a great driver into a team-defining figure. If he stays where he is, he risks being defined by comparison, forever seen through the lens of a teammate who's been in the system longer and carries more internal weight. But if he moves, he rewrites the story. He's no longer the challenger. He becomes the architect. And that's a role Piastri has earned not through media attention or marketing campaigns, but through pure, clinical execution on the track. There's something deeper here than points or podiums. This is about identity. Oscar Piastri is on the cusp of deciding what kind of career he wants. Stay in a familiar structure and fight for balance, or step into a new one where he can shape the culture from day one. Either path demands courage, but only one offers the freedom to grow without limits. And Aston Martin is now holding that door open. So as the final 4 races approach, McLaren still holds Piastri's contract, but Aston Martin may already hold his future. Because in Formula 1, loyalty is respected, but vision is rewarded. And Oscar Piastri is smart enough to know exactly when it's time to stop adapting and start leading.